I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Shelley Row, President and CEO of Shelley Row Associates. She consults on intelligent transportation systems, including connected vehicles, research and implementation. She's a professional speaker and executive coach, and she's a great friend of WTS. I've been fortunate, and many of you here, to see her speak at the Jacksonville Leadership Training, as well as the Philadelphia Conference, and I'm very excited to introduce Shelley Row.
All right. It was 1939 when MGM first released The Wizard of Oz. And that was the first time that we met Dorothy and her little dog, Toto. Very good. And we learned very quickly that Dorothy, she'd had kind of a bad day, right? And she wished that she could be, yes, you're catching on. Yeah, it's kind of fill in the blank. She wished to be where? Somewhere over the rainbow. Any vocalists here? Really? Come on. No? Somebody sings? Nobody? Oh, can you sing just that one little phrase?
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Bravo. You get a prize. So pay attention. She got a prize for participating. Not saying it'd happen again, but maybe. Now, at the same time, in 1940, women were 25% of the workforce. And while I don't know for sure, I'm guessing that there might have been few of them that wished that maybe they too could be somewhere over the rainbow where they had more opportunity at that time period. Now, I posit to you that Dorothy was headed to the Emerald City because she believed that that's where her future lay. Her hope for the future, for what she wanted for herself, was in Oz. And so off she went. Now, I do think we need to pause just to recognize that Dorothy did an across Oz hike wearing sparkly, high-heeled red pumps. It just needs to be acknowledged. Now, we also know that Dorothy did not travel alone. She had some traveling companions. And if you recall, those traveling companions felt like that in some way they were not enough. Do we ever feel like we're not enough? Is anybody that? Here's the situation. Women have been at least 50% of the college graduates since the 1980s. Do the math. The 1980s, there's plenty of time for women to have moved up into senior leadership positions. But where are we? 50% college graduates, 20% of women holding global parliamentary seats, 18% of women in the Congress, 16% of women holding corporate board seats, 4% of women on Fortune 500 CEOs. And here's one of the latest statistics. It's actually in the article from Harvard Business Review that we reprinted for you. 17 of the Fortune 100 companies have no women in the top 10 positions. As it turns out, brains alone isn't going to get us there. It's going to take brains, heart, and courage. We're going to talk about each one of those and those sorts of things. Those are societal trends that I need to be watching to understand how it fits together. So I'm going to just pause for just a minute. I want you to write in your workbook, write down 1 to 3 business lines that you were in. Wouldn't that be nice, yeah? Yeah. So it sounds like that we've got some time management issues to help us focus on the things that are really going to matter, right? Right. So think about that. I want you to keep in mind as we do the rest of the exercises and we talk today about the business lines that you're in, because it's going to permeate everything that you do and everything that we talk about. Because you can't do everything, so you have to choose. Okay. All right, so all of this is really kind of interesting and fun, but this is the question. What is your brand? What is your brand? So in your workbook, I think it's probably page 3, is that right? So I want you to first, by yourself, write down 3 to 5 adjectives that describe the brand that you want people to think of before you walk in the door. And then we're going to, again, get into pairs and we're going to talk about it. Okay? When people walk in the door of your office, does that communicate your brand? Even your posture communicates your brand. Everybody stand up. Now walk as if you've been gone for 2 weeks traveling on business, and you just got to the airport and found out the last flight home was canceled. Now think about those adjectives that are your brand. Think about those adjectives and walk as if you are your brand. Can people see your brand? I ask you just to identify some situation, and by the way, this happens all the time in your personal life. That's a whole different deal. I mean, it's basically the same, but it's a whole lot more like therapy. So I'll ask you to focus today on a work situation where you overreacted to something that should have been inconsequential, or at least small. Okay? So your body is your first clue to a trigger and something that will cause you to overreact. That means that the more you understand about how you respond and react to situations and can be attentive to it, the better off you are and the more you're able to intervene. Right? So there's a word for that. It's called somatic markers. Soma is the Latin word for body. And so these markers are called somatic markers. And you need to understand yours. Okay, are you ready? So no talking, maintain eye contact, noticing people, observing people you're just going to notice in your body. Active people, cross your arms, maintain eye contact as you turn your head 30 degrees to the right and tilt it slightly back, as though you're looking down your nose at your partner. Observe.
I don't think she was trying.
Very conscious of it.
Yeah.
So that speaks to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, so your body, that neurological system that is your body, is connected to your brain. So as you change your posture, as you change your behavior, it's rewiring your brain in that moment. So as you're folding your arms, right, your body didn't lie. That's the other thing, your body didn't lie. So when you fold your arms, then it's sending a certain message to your brain. And so that's what you're observing, is that it then permeated the rest of the neurological system. So just imagine how many times you've walked into a meeting and you've done that to the people in the room. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, first time I did this exercise, I was like, oh my goodness, I've been inflicting pain all this time and I didn't realize it. So what I'm going to have you do is go back to your papers, and I want you to now think about that trigger that you wrote down, that time that you overreacted. And see if you can kind of remember it, replay it a little bit, and see if there's any of those somatic markers that you can pick up, that in remembering it, you go, oh, I could have noticed that. You see, that's the thing. If you can notice it, then you go, oh, it's starting. The thing in my gut is starting. I have to get this to stop. I have to get the situation to stop. So think about it for just a minute, and then we'll talk some more. 79% of men feel they have to be careful when giving feedback to women. 82% of women want feedback. We've got a little disconnect there. Got a little disconnect there. We also have a disconnect with this one. 72% of men say that women ask too many questions. 80% of women use questions to build consensus, show concern, or offer feedback. Yet another disconnect. So here's the thing with the disconnects. To be able to call them out and put them on the table, that helps resolve the disconnects. Right? To be able to say, look, maybe it's uncomfortable for you to give me feedback. I really would value that feedback. That's the only way I can grow. I'm fine with it. What I do not recommend is that you go in and say, look, I've got this situation. What would you do? I would not do that, because it puts you in a box. So they'll tell you what they would do, right? They tell you. But if that doesn't fit you, because you're not them, if it doesn't fit you, then you're in a situation of saying, well, thank you for that advice and your time, but I'm not going to take it. Awkward. Awkward. You can just phrase it differently. Say, so I have this situation. How would you think it through? How would you approach the problem? You're going to get much richer information because you're going to get their thought process. It's going to be much deeper, much richer information, and there's bound to be something in there that you can use. And then you're in a very different situation. The next time you see them in the hall, see them at the cafeteria, see them at the coffee shop, you'll say, thank you so much for the time that you spent with me. That thing that you said about dump-diddy-dump, it was exactly right on. Puts you in a completely different situation. Work with you all. Thank you so much for being here and for being such great participants. Bravo.